How's it going, everyone? We are taking a look at the new Mortal Kombat 2 movie trailer, and we'll discuss what we see in it, different hidden meanings perhaps, what we can expect from the film. And the general theme that we see is that the series seems to be returning to its comedy and satire roots. And if you don't think Mortal Kombat is comedy and satire, well, pay attention. You might learn a few things. So I don't want to talk too much. Let's get into it, and we'll get more into the ideas as we progress.
Uno mas, thanks.
You're Johnny Cage. I loved Citizen Cage when I was a kid.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
They should do a reboot.
Nobody wants that. Shit went out in the 90s.
Johnny Cage, you have been chosen to fight.
Tell me you're not some crazy fans. How are you doing that?
Are you coming or what?
Okay, I'm going to pause it right there for a bit. So right away we see the comedy is there. We see him pointing his middle finger as he's fixing his sunglasses. We see him breaking the fourth wall as if the characters in the story are aware that they are characters in the story. He meets a fan who says that he loves him when he was a kid. And Johnny Cage says, well, nobody wants a reboot. Well, I mean, this whole thing is a reboot, right? The Mortal Kombat movie that came out recently is a reboot of the original Mortal Kombat movie. This is a sequel to that. He's saying that, well, this lost popularity in the 90s, and he doesn't really have faith that it's going to come back. So he's representing Mortal Kombat here, right? Johnny Cage is representing what was popular in the 90s, what was a huge hit, what people loved as kids, and then it just lost its popularity, and he's doubting if a reboot will work. But it seems it might be more than that. And this is where the satire bit comes in, right? He's also a movie star, and it is a comedy. And what else? Well, there's a pretty common opinion these days is that movies in general and comedies in particular were better in the 90s. So he could just be representing movies and comedies generally, not just representing the Mortal Kombat universe. And it is a comedy. The original movie was a comedy. That's what carried it. Yes, it was sci-fi and fantasy and, of course, a martial arts movie and some horror elements, but it's really the comedy that kept it going. The sequel to the original, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, did very poorly, and it was not really trying to be a comedy. And then they had the reboot recently, the recent Mortal Kombat movie, and well, that one was comical, mainly because of the character Kano, and that's what really carried the film, the comedy aspect. The first three games, which made the franchise so popular, were also comical. Yes, they were known for the violence, which was shocking for that time, but at that time the violence was the shock in shock humor, and because of the graphics technology that existed at the time, the violence was more so ridiculous than disgusting, and that ridiculousness provided that shock in the shock humor combined with other comical elements to the game. So it really was a comedy, and it's good to see it returning to those roots and returning to an element of satire, because it also tried to push the limits of what was considered appropriate. One of the problems Mortal Kombat is running into the last few years is that a lot of the things that were considered taboo in the early 90s are not shocking anymore. For example, the violence. So it's interesting. Let's see how this keeps going.
It's called Mortal Kombat. It's a fighting tournament. To the death.
Okay, so Katana's fans, it's interesting. It's not clear here. Like, is it a technology that's letting those fans do that sort of thing, or is it magic? And that's what's cool about this genre. Sometimes it's called science fantasy. Sometimes it's just called sci-fi fantasy, where the two genres of sci-fi and fantasy are blended. And maybe the movie will make it a bit more clear. Is it magical, or is this some sort of technology that's allowing her fans to do that? And if it is, maybe I'll have to do a separate separate video on the fans.
Fuck that.
This is a war
Classic Cage
for the fate of your
stage.
world.
You dickheads in or what? I'm not some
Jade looks
champion.
different.
I don't have transformer arms. Or shoot lightning bolts. This shit's got nothing to do with me. I'm an actor.
Okay, so he's saying he doesn't shoot lightning bolts or have transformer arms or anything. So again, we have that comedy, right? The Transformers reference. So it's really good that they're really leaning into the comedy. I think that's the only way they can succeed, really. It seems to follow that story that we saw a bit of in the first remake, where he has to find what his special ability is. They called it the character's arcana in the first remake. And in fantasy stories where characters have some sort of magic or superpowers, in the good stories, the supernatural elements are representative of something that is real. And that's how people relate to it. And it could be real but difficult to explain, and so it needs to be explained symbolically, like through superpowers. For example, you have Harry Potter, you have Peter Parker, Spider-Man, you have Luke Skywalker. Similar story, or somewhere around their teenage years, plus or minus a couple years, they suddenly realize that they have this power and they're trying to figure out what to do with it. Well, that's what happens, right? When around those years, boys are growing up, girls too, right? Just those three stories happen to be about very similar boy characters. They suddenly realized they could do things that were like superpowers when they were kids, right? They could drive. They're much bigger. They're much stronger than before. They can go by themselves to places. They can influence people in more ways. They can make money. And what do you do with that power, right? People can relate. And so the whole story of Mortal Kombat is that in every generation, Earth is threatened by this realm called Outworld. And so the greatest warriors of Earth have to defend Earth from Outworld by facing the greatest warriors of Outworld in a tournament. But Outworld actually hires Earth's warriors to fight on their behalf. So Earth's warriors are actually fighting against some of Earth's warriors as well. And so the warriors of Earth, the ones on the good side actually representing Earth, are looking for their kind of special powers, special abilities that can really make them stand out. And well, what's the symbolism here? Okay, what's this tournament that happens every generation symbolizing? Well, Outworld, based on the symbolism, the imagery elements of the story in the earlier movie and games, it's a tyrannical place on one hand. On the other hand, it's a very chaotic, lawless place, maybe even with a touch of hedonism. So you have these two opposite extremes. You have like really strict oppressive rules, and you have like no rules at all. And it's these two extremes that threaten this balance of Earth in every generation, and the greatest defenders of Earth have to defend that stability from these extremes. But who are they facing off against? Well, they're facing off against Earthlings as well, who decide to represent and fight on behalf of those extremes. So if they can tie that in to that kind of symbolism that we saw in the rest of the Mortal Kombat stories, then it should work better rather than just some sort of very abstract looking for a magical power.
I find you annoying.
Not the face.
Not the face, again, comedy. Okay, classic matchup.
It's
Sit down.
time to become the hero you were meant to be. All right, you big ugly fuck. It's showtime. Get over here!
Okay, I didn't want to pause at a disgusting part. So that part there with the fire, that's actually seems like a reshoot of a iconic scene from the original Mortal Kombat movie where Johnny Cage, the main character in this one, is fighting Scorpion in hell. So maybe they decided to reshoot that fight. That'd be interesting with modern film technology. What we see though here, Scorpion is fighting what looks like Noob Saibot. And that's interesting because the Scorpion Sub-Zero rivalry is like a well-known thing in the Mortal Kombat universe. And then Sub-Zero becomes Noob Saibot, but we don't really see a Scorpion Noob Saibot rivalry. But maybe here we will. So that's interesting.
Finish him!
Are you shitting me? You don't have any powers? Just incredibly handsome.
Okay, so we have the classic music playing. We have Shao Kahn yelling, "Finish him!" And then again, he's told that he doesn't have any powers, and he says, "No, I'm just incredibly handsome." That's interesting because, well, being incredibly good looking is something that gives one more power, especially in the film industry, which is where Johnny Cage is. And I'm wondering if they're going to build on that theme in the movie, or that's just a one-off joke. But what we see here is that he starts off at the beginning of the trailer, he's kind of lost hope, right? He thinks that his greatest days are behind him. He doesn't have anything to look forward to. Nobody wants a reboot. And if he's representing the Mortal Kombat franchise, well, maybe that's the opinion he's representing at the start of the trailer. If he's representing movies and comedies in general, that the 90s were the glory days and it's over, it's not coming back, no point in hoping for it. Well, again, so it starts off at that depressing note, and then here he shows that youthful confidence, that cockiness, where he's saying, "No, I'm just incredibly handsome." So we see character transformation in the trailer. Maybe there is something special about him, and he isn't just one of many action heroes that gets forgotten with time, right? Maybe there was something special about the 90s, and it's not just another decade that was popular to those who were there and then gets forgotten with time. So that's an interesting touch to the end of the trailer, where you do see that character development, maybe that symbolic development too, where he says, he's clearly an older character here, but he still says, "No, just incredibly good looking." So that's interesting. We also see Kano seems like a good guy here, so we'll see how that'll develop. Okay, so again, the main thing I'm taking from this, they're really leaning into the comedy and satire, and I think that's what they really need to do to succeed. So yeah, looking forward. We'll see how that develops. Until next time, enjoy.